right, welcome to another episode of Daddy's Girl. Today I have with me Julie Cegelski, who is one of my closest friends. You are like my soundboard, inspiration. You're just all these things mixed into one, so I'm super happy to have you here.
That's really nice. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thanks. And Julie, today's a super special day because tonight is White Night. White Light, White Night.
Correct.
Thank you. With Walk with Sally, and that's how we met.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Walk with Sally.
So I got involved in Walk with Sally about 10 years ago. So the reason I guess I'm a daddy's girl, I lost my father to brain cancer 10 years ago. Wow. He had died. He had battled cancer for 2 years, passed away, and I was in transition, had just graduated, was feeling a little bit lost, found Walk with Sally, and was like, holy smokes, I want to get involved. So I researched, called the CEO, Nick, and said, what you're creating is something I wish I had. And he's like, why don't you move to LA and become like my assistant? It's, you know, we don't have a lot of money, we don't have a lot of families, but let's get this started. And so moved down here, and more or less we connect young kids who have lost a parent to cancer with adults who have lost a parent to cancer. And from there, it was literally my passion. And for, 7 days a week, working nights, weekends, everything. I just wanted to build this up so no kid went through what I went through. Because losing my dad to cancer was honestly one of the scariest things ever. Like not knowing who to talk to, feeling alone, and not having really an avenue or a support system. So we built up Walk with Sally. When I first started, we had like a very small budget, a staff of 3, and now we're killing it. I no longer work there, but still am a huge fan and a huge supporter. I think they have a staff of about 10. And now we're supporting over 200 families in LA, which is incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
So tonight's the big night, the big fundraiser. The goal this year is to raise $1 million. It's across the street. You wear all white. And yeah, I'm stoked.
And what year are we on with the event? Is this a big milestone or no? Is it?
Heavily involved, but don't know that answer.
It's been ongoing for a few years now, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I think Walk with Sally has been around for maybe 15 years. White Light, I think this is year 10.
I think, yeah.
I'm making up these numbers a little bit.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
We'll edit that part out.
Yeah, might be.
So tell me what it was like growing up as a daddy's girl.
Yeah. So we've discussed, and I think, so my dad, Jim, was an interesting man, and obviously I was far from a daddy's girl in the aspect of being like a princess. Like I wasn't, I didn't come home and tell my dad about boyfriends or get excited, but he was someone who had very high standards and created a very high moral code that forever lives within me. Wow. So, I was thinking back when we first started talking about daddy's girl, and something that I'll literally never forget and something that's kind of changed my life is I was in 8th grade. We grew up in a small town in Northern California, and we were at a 99-cent store. And we're checking out of the 99-cent store, my mom and I, and there was a girl there, and she was African American, and she was pregnant, and she was covered in tattoos. And I'd asked her, like, oh my God, how old are you? And she said, I'm 15 years old. I grew up in Oakland, and now I'm just working at the 99-cent store, and telling me her story.
Right.
I'm 8th grade. What are you? 15?
Yeah, something like that.
And I come home, and my dad gets home from work. I'm like, Dad, oh my God, you should be so proud of me. I have no tattoos. I'm not pregnant. I'm telling him all these things. And he sat me down and he said, you were dealt a very generous hand of cards. That poor girl was not dealt a good hand of cards, and you support people and you lift them up and you don't make fun of them and you don't discredit them. And like, you were lucky. This sounds a little gnarly. But he said, you did nothing to be born into this family, and you've been given every opportunity. Don't forget that. And he goes, you help those people. And like from that moment on, no joke, I was like, anything I can do to support people. And I mean, ironically, that bled into my career of working for foundations and nonprofits. But this moral code and these values that my dad instilled in our family, like that's his legacy. Like that'll forever live on. I wasn't per se a daddy's girl, but like I did want his approval. And like the bar was so high, and every day I did anything to make him proud. Like literally everything I did was for him to be like, you did okay, pal. And I mean, I guess that makes me a daddy's girl because I just looked up to him for an ounce of respect because he was the bee's knees. Like he was amazing.
Sounds like it. That's incredible.
He would have loved you.
I think I would have loved him because I love you.
That's sweet. So, yeah. We would have had a good time together.
I think so.
He loved a good cocktail. So
So tell me about how old were you when he was diagnosed with brain, with his...
So he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay.
So it started in the spinal cord and ended up in his brain. And so I was 21.
Okay.
I just finished, it's actually kind of a wild story because I was 20 years old and it was as if he knew he was getting sick, because we went, as a family, we went and jumped out of a, what's it called? Not bungee jumping. What's it called?
Parasailing?
No, when you jump out of a plane.
We went skydiving. There we go.
So literally for his birthday, I was like, hey, what should we do? Should we have a picnic? He's like, let's all go skydiving. And we woke up, got in a car, and went skydiving. Then he wanted to play at St. Andrews. He like flew all of his buddies to St. Andrews and they played golf. For my birthday, we flew to Miami and like partied it up for my 21st. Like we had the time of our lives this last year. And my mom had called me and said, I've never seen your dad throw up. And he woke up and he got really sick this morning. And would you mind flying home? And so I immediately called my best friend's mom, who was a doctor at Stanford. And I was like, I'm so scared. She's like, it sounds like he has like encephalitis or meningitis. Like, get him into the hospital immediately. So we went straight to the hospital and he was a legit wackadoo. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know who he was. And everything was coming out clear, all of his scans, everything. And we're like, something's not right.
Right.
And we went home that day and just acting bizarre, like doing weird things, couldn't remember where his car was, just, pretty horrible. And my sister was living in Dubai at the time, getting her MBA. My other sister was living in Hawaii at the time. And I called them both up and I just said, Dad, like the only way I can describe it is like Dad's acting as if he's a freshman in a frat and had too much to drink.
Wow.
Like it's weird.
Yeah.
And so as a family, we all rallied and moved home and supported him. And he ended up getting a brain biopsy a few months later. And they found that he had a very rare form of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, that how the doctor described it was like salt and pepper in his brain. Mm-hmm. Whereas usually it's a mass or a tumor. Like it was sprinkled throughout the brain so they couldn't identify it. So I was 21 when he was diagnosed, and then he died when I was 23.
And what were those years knowing that he was diagnosed and knowing that, did the doctor give you a time frame of how long?
They never had a case like his before. So they said, would you be open to doing experimental treatment and kind of using your father as a way to help others? And we're like, of course. So they tried everything. And those 2 years, we joke, I have 3 sisters, that we should have filmed it because we would have been famous, because it was a shit show. Like literally like changing my dad's diapers, changing his catheter. Like he'd have an inkling, he'd wake up in the morning, feel great because the steroids would work, and he would want to go gambling and fly to Thailand. And we're like, let's do it. So we spent Christmas in Thailand. Like it was nuts. Like he wanted to go skiing, but he wasn't mobile. So like we flew him to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, so he could sit at a lodge and watch everyone ski. Like he had these like impulse moments when the drugs would work.
Right.
And we just said, let's go.
Wow.
So like those years, although it was devastating to see, growing up, I saw my father in a 3-piece suit, like closing deals and hustling and just being the man. And then he's in a diaper in a wheelchair and you're like, what's going on?
Right.
But there was never a moment of sadness. And like the dopest thing about my dad growing up, he never felt bad for himself. I never heard him complain like, all right, I have to spend another week in London working, or I have 4 daughters. That's like, there was never he was never a victim to his life, and he lived a big life. And he even did that the last 2 years of being sick. Like he'd wake up and he's like, I'm going to go see Tom Petty live. And I'm like, let's do it, dude. And so it was never like, we never sat back and we're like, this is not fair that we have to give him a sponge bath. Like, this is awkward.
Yeah.
It was like, no, let's rally. Like, we love him so much. Like, let's make sure we take care of him. And it's like, we are such a strong unit. And so it was, as devastating as it was so beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. That was a beautiful story. That was a lot of beautiful stories in one. I don't even know.
What was the question, Veronica?
Right. No, but that was perfect. That was so perfect. And after your dad passed, were you guys still able to continue to rally, or was it, as a family, did you have to pick yourself up and go, okay, now he's not here anymore? Like, what did that look like?
Well, I think, again, growing up, my dad had super high standards. So, like, we could never slip up. Like, growing up, we dressed well. We went to church every Sunday. We had family dinner. We were just a solid unit. And when he passed, I think we all kind of lost that rock. Wow. So definitely there were some hiccups, right? Like, yeah. I got into some bad relationships, and I, like, definitely partied a little bit, probably more than I should have. But honestly, with his energy and his like spirit looking over me, which maybe some don't believe, like I just want to still make him proud because I know he's watching out. So yeah, there's still hiccups, and there's going to be hiccups regardless, even if he was alive. But I think that, you know, as a family unit, I sit back and I'm so proud of my 3 sisters and what they've accomplished. My mom is a widow now. She lost her soulmate, and she's hustling. She's now doing real estate and just like making it work. And so I think like he left us with this like resiliency that we'll continue to, you know, honor and move forward.
And what kind of legacy do you want people to remember your dad by?
Okay, so the weirdest part is I thought about writing a book after he passed away that said like, I didn't know my dad until he died, because now that he's passed, these people at the country club will come up to me like, your father was a legend. Or like, I'll be at wherever I am and people are like, oh my God, you're Jim Cegelski's daughter. Do you know like how cool he was? And I'm like, for us, he was our father that we tried to impress and make proud.
Sure.
But to like the world, he was just like an outlier. And he was just like a dynamic, unique man who just like loved people, loved to hustle, and loved to have a good time. And like, we joke that he's probably the only man who has more benches in the world dedicated to him. Like anywhere you go, it's like in memory of Jim Cegelski. And you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. But people just love him. Like his legacy lives on because of how he treated people. And he like treated everyone the same. And I think, I mean, that's honestly probably what he left in me is you treat the mailman like you treat the CEO of Oracle. Like you treat everyone with respect and like waking up and doing your best and like taking pride in everything you do.
That's incredible. And how has that translated to you? Because I know how it with Walk with Sally, but now where you're at now and the things that you're doing with Kula and a bunch of things. I mean, share how that's now, what that looks like now for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think a cool thing about watching my dad and his success is that he was always pivoting, right? And he wasn't afraid to try something new or to it. You know, I mean, he was very safe and smart with his like finances, but like he would take some risks. He always had like a good gut feeling and would like trust his friends and invest in good companies and be heavily involved. And it was always 100%. And he always would say, if you're putting a Cegelski name on that, like make sure you're proud of that. And everything I touch, I'm like, have to remember, like I'm putting the Cegelski name on that, and I want to make sure it's like a 10 out of 10 if I'm putting it out there. But I think with him, he taught me not to be afraid. I mean, he put us in the craziest situations of sitting down in Hong Kong with the CEO of Honda and then backpacking through Northern California for 5 days. Like we were on such a large spectrum. And so I'm really not afraid to try anything. And when I hit my goal at Walk with Sally is the minute we make $1 million and I'm managing a team of 5, it's time for me to move on. And we did that last year. And I said, all right, it's time for me to make a change. And so I left LA and moved to NorCal and reached out to a few of my dad's buddies and just said, like, I'm looking for, you know, something new. And, you know, because of him, I'm not afraid to make a change and make a shift and to challenge myself. And so I'm super grateful because now I have the opportunity to work with one of my dad's friends and his startup. Not to plug it, but it's called VidSig.
Okay.
And we're connecting experts, athletes, and celebrities with their fans.
That's incredible.
And the whole idea is like, honestly, having genuine connection on like a FaceTime platform.
Okay.
And so it's been incredible. And I'm working alongside one of my dad's friends. Like every day I feel his energy and it's so rad. And I'm just grateful that he's like set it up for us.
That's amazing.
Growing up, he'd always say, I'll give you enough to do anything you want, but not too much so you do nothing. And he really has. Like he has opened every door and I just don't want to let him down. And I want to make sure every door that he's opened, I like am knocking and opening and killing it and crushing it.
Which you are.
Thank you. Sometimes.
No, you are. You are. I watch you and I'm just like, you're the Energizer Bunny to me. You're just going and doing and helping. And I'm always so inspired with what you're doing. And especially with Kula, you just encouraging a community of people to come together in an entrepreneurial type environment, but also like kind of keeping us grounded and giving us friendly reminders weekly about staying motivated or how to overcome obstacles and things like that. And you formed these little hub communities, I feel like in the South Bay and now probably in Northern California. And I'm just like,
you should have been at the first Northern California event.
I'm sure it was great.
It was funny. It was comical. I'll start recording them actually so you can see.
Please live stream it for me so I can tune in.
But I think too, with that being said, there are bad days. And I think, you know, with Kula, my whole objective there was I hit some roadblocks in life and Kula means community. And if it wasn't for my community, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I wanted everyone to know they're not alone. And so I continued to create a safe environment so people could thrive, but also have those dark days, which we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And those emails I send out weekly are about a reminder, like, you're not alone, and like, I'm going through it. I have a day that, I get a flat tire, stub my toe, I get a ticket, and it's like,
Yeah.
but it's like, all right, wake up and hit reset and let's do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it. And if your dad was sitting right here where I'm at, what would you tell him?
I mean, probably thank you. I think for so much of my life, I mean, again, he got diagnosed when I was 21. I was just trying to prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wish that I would have sat back and realized, like, I wish I was comfortable enough with myself to just be myself. With him, I was always trying to show, Dad, I got straight A's and I made the soccer team. And guess what? I'm the president of my sorority. Like, who cares? Like, sit back and just be a person. And I just wish I would have said, like, thank you. Like, the life that he created for us is unreal. And I understand that not a lot of people have it. And like, he was the man. And so, yeah, I would just say thank you. And like, I'm so appreciative of everything that he's created so I can help more people. I mean, to think that his death led me to supporting over 250 families who've lost their parents to cancer is unreal.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, he encourages me to like try my best every single day. And sometimes I hit like a 2 and sometimes I hit 100.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, honestly, just like a thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's another episode of Daddy's Girl. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back next Sunday with another episode. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.